Our story starts with Hong Xing trying to get 2 days off work to deal with a family emergency from his boss, who could not care less if he tried. He even promised to make up for any work he might miss when he returned. He just really needed a few days. Without even looking up from his phone, the manager asserted that their department was short-staffed. Except for special circumstances like funerals, no other leave would be approved. The cause of the manager's distraction was the pretty lady dancing on a live stream. That's right, he's one of those coomers. Not an ordinary one, mind you. The manager was a high roller, the type who donates tons of cash to his favorite streams. As soon as he sent that rocket ship, the live stream burst with energy as the music and dancing got more intense. Meanwhile, Xing was still pouring his heart out for his sick mother, who needed someone to take care of her. The cruel manager suggested that Xing father should take care of the mom. If that was not possible, then nearby relatives should take the role. If Xing mother was in critical condition, the request might have been approved. Just then, the pretty lady on the stream thanked her big brother, the manager, for sending a rocket worth a lot of money. Seeing this bum of a boss who does not care about the well-being of his employees, Xing anger rose. With his condescending tone, the manager insisted that Xing should make a few sacrifices to climb the ladder instead of making excuses to leave. In their new media industry, timeliness is crucial. If someone breaks the news first, their department's performance will suffer. So Xing proposed working from home while staying in touch the whole time. But the manager was too unforgiving for that. He was tired of persuading Xing and just outright told him to quit. All he had to do was settle up with finance and get out. Unfortunately, Xing graduated from a third-tier university, and the company had just taken him in due to demand. Most of their applicants were from first-tier universities, and he had always been expendable. Trends won't wait, and neither will his job. The manager strongly advised Xing to think it over before he insisted on leaving again. So that's precisely what he did. Xing lit up a cig and thought. His deliberation was interrupted by the blaring noise of his phone's ringtone. On the other end of the line was his dad asking if he could come back home. You see, Mom's medical fees haven't been settled yet. The hospital had been flexible enough, but any more delays would be a problem. Dad had been making excuses for a few days now, and the hospital was putting its foot down for the payment. They could either pay up or be discharged. This understandably put Dad in a very tough position. On the other end of the line, Xing was starting to catch the vibe that his dad was hiding some serious financial problems back home. He asserted that he would be back in a few days and would help with the medical fees. But being a traditional man, Dad assured him that he had already borrowed some funds from friends and relatives, along with the medical insurance to cover everything. Still, Xing wanted to cover the shortfall, as he didn't want his family to owe anything to relatives. As the eldest son, he wanted to handle this financial mess. However, Dad did not want to burden his newly graduated son with working in a city with a high cost of living. He just wanted Xing to live for himself and not worry about them back home. Well, he's been working for a year and a half with a monthly salary of $5,000. He shares a bunk bed with a roommate and lives a frugal life. Despite that, he only managed to save $50,000. At least this much should be enough to cover the debts from his mom's medical expenses for a while. Hong Xing had lived for over 20 years without stepping out of line. Today, he was going to change that. He steeled his resolve to resign from a crappy, inhumane company and take his talents elsewhere. So his next destination was the Human Resources Department. 20 minutes later, his status had been officially changed to unemployed. He did it out of his own will, but not having a job anymore painted a bitter smile on his face. In this current job market and economic climate, quitting his livelihood without another job lined up was reckless, to say the least. But he was bailed out upon unlocking the ultimate freedom system for deciding against his ancestors' wishes. Quitting his job rewarded Xing with 88,088 yuan, or approximately $12,000. Xing stopped in his tracks. He was just minding his own business when the golden text prompt appeared in front of him. At first, he thought someone was playing a video on full blast nearby, to the point of buzzing inside his brain. But the interface in front of him explained that he should check his reward money and indulge freely. The more he spends, the more money he can get. The rich get richer. With his shaking hands, he carefully took his phone out of his pocket. The notification read that 88,888 yuans had been successfully deposited into his account. At first, the skeptic in him wondered if this was some type of new age scam or something. But the text message was official, and the money in his account had actually increased. With 138,888 yuan to his name, his painstakingly saved up funds had ballooned. The system assured its master not to doubt his awakening. All he had to do now was start living it up to his heart's content. Xinguang would never have believed it if he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. After checking his account, he actually found the mentioned amount of money in his account. There was no doubt now he had really awakened the system. Now, all that was left was to figure out how everything worked and see if this system of absolute freedom could really help him. It was necessary to test everything in practice. His thoughts were interrupted by a woman's voice asking what he was thinking about. The girl who called out to him was Haeyeon, a blogger with 8 million fans. She wanted to know if he'd prepared her stream schedule. Haeyeon had 8 million fans for a reason. Her beauty and charm had tremendous power. At the sight of her, Xinguang's thoughts drifted away, and he didn't even hear what she said. Noticing his confusion, Haeyeon asked if he finally saw his older sister as a girl. Xinguang took it as a joke as usual. Throwing herself at him, Haeyeon said that she needed more operational resources because recently, the highest-paying fans had been paying less. Before that, Xinguang had always managed her streaming broadcasts. Online, she was known as the most attractive dance goddess. In real life, however, she was quite friendly and not arrogant at all. Also, her flaw as well as her strength was that she liked to joke around. That had been the case before, but now he had quit and wasn't responsible for it. He informed Haeyeon that the company would find her another manager. The girl worriedly asked why he had made such a sudden decision. Xinguang sympathized with her to some extent. Although she didn't look down on others, she treated him even better because he was her operator in the company. He was also the easiest person for her to work with. But now their roads were parting, and there was nothing to add here. In our hero's opinion, he finally became fully aware of reality. But Haeyeon did not plan to give up so easily. Using her witchy, sorry girl charms, she said she preferred to work with him and wouldn't trust anyone else. Xinguang's sanity was gone in an instant. He realized that he was charmed, but he wasn't going to lose so easily. At the same time, Haeyeon was trying to understand why Xinguang was acting so strange today. Usually, he always played along with her, but not this time. In a saddened voice, she asked if he really wanted to leave her. This might have worked on the old Xinguang, but now our hero was a completely different person. He wasn't going to be fooled by her pretense. Xinguang replied that he wanted to take a long vacation. Haeyeon started trying to seduce him with her charm again, and to be honest, she was quite good at it. Xinguang was having a hard time. However, it was already a foregone conclusion. He had a system with which he could become a billionaire. With that kind of money, he could get 10 of these beauties. After finally coming to his senses, Xinguang replied that Haeyeon should fix her nose makeup, as it looked a little crooked to him. Haeyeon, who had never heard such a thing in her life, was shocked. It seemed impossible to her, but she rushed to check it out in person anyway. Eventually, Haeyeon began to think that Xinguang's words were true, and her makeup on her nose was indeed a bit crooked. The broadcast was going to start soon, so there was very little time to fix this. At the same time, a system notification appeared in front of Xinguang, in which the system expressed its admiration for his determination. He refused to be a chain dog and was able to express his sincere feelings. For this, he received a reward of 23,000 when Xinguang was once again shocked. He had done such a small thing and already received such a large sum. What could he get if he made his former boss crawl on his knees? But it was too early to think about that for now. Just like last time, he received the money into his account again. His balance was already 162,000 yuan. Now Xinguang understood what absolute freedom meant. Now he could no longer be afraid to be himself. He could do whatever he wanted and get paid for it. What could be better than that? That day, another devil was born on earth. The beauty actually thanked him for pointing out her crooked nose. She also accepted that he was going his own way now, but was looking forward to a chance to work together in the future. This gorgeous woman actually wished him the best for his career instead of acting furious for being exposed. She was way too calm. Xinguang wondered if she was faking this nice act, or if she was just like this naturally. In addition, she even invited him to a farewell dinner treat for mentoring her on the technical side of things for so long. Hao even offered to help him look for a new job with her connections to some industry bosses, believing in his top-notch skills. With the time they spent together before, she knew that he did not come from the best university. Maybe she was not conniving at all. Perhaps she was actually a decent human being. So Xinguang reversed the invitation and offered to treat her to dinner instead. She was naturally worried that he would be struggling financially, though. He laughed and used his departure as an excuse to stop being stingy. They might work together in the future, so this dinner could be considered an advance thanks. She smiled as she realized that he was already leaving when they hadn't had the chance to know each other at all. Since Xing Wang had already packed up and was ready to head out, dinner after work should be perfect. Xing Wang exited the building with a livelier pep in his step. He was born anew and was ready to experience the world on a whole new level. Before, if he could walk, he would never take the bus or subway. If he could take public transport, he would never take a taxi. If he worked overtime until 11, he would share a ride with someone. But looking at his bank account and the endless possibilities that had opened up to him, that might start to change. And even sharing rides in the dead of the night was a luxury for him in his daily life. So today he would take the most expensive ride on the app and splurge properly on what he could not afford before. It did not take too long for a clean-looking silver car to pull up near him. The driver was personable and even wore a suit. This is what you get if you order a DD Premium ride. Xing Wang's system quietly rewarded him with another 50,000 for being generous and taking a ride without looking at the price. Looking at the car, its sleek lines and the smooth sound of its engine could make anyone's blood boil with excitement. He remembered waiting for other people to share a ride with him, sometimes until after midnight, just to save a few bucks. His current situation was light years away from that. He had truly made a gigantic leap in social class. From today onwards, he would be a different person. The driver smiled and politely directed him to get in the car. His destination was confirmed to be the Baiyoxing Road intersection, a place called Liaoxiang Yanbing Pancake Shop, to be specific. Upon confirmation, the driver stepped on the gas and drove to the location. In the back seat, Xing Wang gladly enjoyed the feeling of acceleration in an expensive vehicle. Smoke billowed from the tailpipe, and the driver showed off his impressive driving skills. With their speed, it did not take too long to reach Xing Wang's destination. He got out of the car with a newfound sense of self, confident to take on anything now that he had unlocked a cheat code for reality and capitalism. The elderly lady working in the pancake shop practically knew him at this point. She also knew that his order was usually a Janbing without egg and sausage. But this time was different. He wanted the egg. In fact, he could afford all the eggs he wanted, but 2 should be enough. Also, he wanted 2 pure meat sausages. None of those lousy starch sausages. The people around him were impressed by his lavish order. When Xing Wang had a monthly salary of 5,000, he spent 800 on rent and limited himself to 20 yuan a day on food. An 8 yuan plain Janbing saved him from starvation multiple times, but he never dared to add eggs. Today, he could go all out and splurge on a meal. Just lining up to eat something worth 15 yuan was already a level up for Xing Wang. He wanted the people around him to feel envy and jealousy as soon as they saw his 2 eggs and pure meat sausage. That's precisely what happened. The ladies blushed and the dudes wondered when they could flex their eggs and sausages like this. This little stunt of making a significant leap from his impoverished living standards earned him another 20K from the system. Walking away from the stall while munching on good food, Xing Wang enjoyed the beautiful afternoon with a satisfied smile on his face. He promised himself that he would add 5 eggs to his order next time. Back in his days as a student, Xing Wang was so broke that he could not afford any kind of entertainment. After he got into the workforce, not only did he not have enough money, but he also lost all his time. These days, he doesn't even know what normal people do to be entertained. Walking aimlessly, he found himself near a familiar building. Suddenly, an idea struck inside his head like Jimmy Neutron having a brain blast. How could he forget about it? Now that he had plenty of money, he could live like one of those rich pricks who shop at the mall without looking at price tags. He still needed to treat Hao Wen to dinner tonight. And as far as he knew, high-end restaurants pay close attention to dress codes these days. His current wardrobe just won't cut it. The quality of his clothes is not nearly up to rich society standards. So he entered the shopping mall and resolved to do what he had never gotten to do. Amidst the crowd, he looked at the shops and their storefronts in boundless confusion. He had unknowingly entered one of those massive malls filled with the scent of luxury. Every store had brand names written in English, and he could barely understand what he was looking at. Xing Wang came into this place with the intention of splurging cash, and now he didn't even know where or how to start. He immediately tried to find a familiar brand, something like Adidas. But those kinds of stores weren't up to this mall's standards. Xing Wang stopped himself from looking around cluelessly, like a bumpkin. Despite his cheat code in life, he was still looking at things small-mindedly when he could just go all out without consequences. He was attracted by the premium-looking storefront of Louis Vuitton. The attendants inside the store took note of the new customer and pushed the task of assisting Xing Wang to one another. The senior attendant clocked Xing Wang as soon as he entered the establishment. Her rich experience in customer service led her to assess the young man by his current getup. His hair wasn't professionally styled. He was wearing a bunch of junk. His phone was an old model, and most of his clothes were discount goods from street stalls. In other words, a broke boy had been spotted. The attendants had a non-verbal agreement to not assist someone who would never be able to afford what they were selling. Han Xinguang slowly caught up to this fact when he entered, and not a single attendant attended to him. Sure, he admitted that he might look like a broke boy right now, but their snobbishness was too obvious and nefarious. So he spoke up and explained that he was tired from work and didn't have time to browse. He just wanted to pick something worth $150,000 and be done with his shopping. But since these pompous sales ladies wanted to waste his time by acting high and mighty, maybe he would just go to the Hermes store next door. Hearing his threat, the attendants were alarmed. They might have foolishly misread a customer. So every single attendant quickly flocked toward the young man. They showered him with pretty smiles while asking what he was looking for. Some even offered to sit him down and have some tea while browsing through the store's collection. This was one of the first instances of Xinguang learning that money really does talk, and it speaks volumes. By the time he was done shopping, he was already dripped out with flashy new clothes. His aura had undoubtedly gone up. He also learned that the service for wealthy people in luxury stores was undoubtedly first class. You don't even have to carry your bags. Someone carries them for you. The girl assigned to carry his stuff cheerfully and politely invited him to participate in a jewelry appreciation event at the end of the month, and he promised to come if he had time. She also proposed that they could just have his bags delivered to his residence for convenience. He refused to do it that way, as he preferred to do things himself. With that said, he took the bags from the lady. With a refreshing smile and brilliant energy, the lady wished him well respectfully. On the way out of the shopping mall, Xinguang overheard some ladies talking about not being able to afford staple luxury brands like LV and Hermes. He looked at his wardrobe pickups and smiled. Yesterday, he wouldn't even dream of buying something so expensive. Today, he couldn't wait to spend more. The system watched him spend 3 years' worth of his previous salary in one go. This was his first big sum achievement, and it came with a 660,000 yuan reward, or approximately $90,000. Indeed, spending more leads to earning even more. From being a penny-pinching broke boy, he was now only a little bit away from becoming a millionaire. All he needed to do was work hard and live it up luxuriously. Xinguang now could not be stingy, and if before he would choose some cheap fast food, now he chose the most expensive restaurant in the city, Lingwei Western. For such a restaurant, our hero of course dressed appropriately. His appearance, probably for the first time in his life, was bright and luxurious. At the entrance, he was immediately met by a beautiful waitress, and she offered to guide the Honorable Mr. Hong to the reserved private room. Xinguang arrived a little early, and Hao Wen was still busy with her work, so he was going to wait for her at the entrance. But the waitress assured him that there was no need for important guests like him to wait here. The private room was separated from the main hall, and he could relax there, have a couple of desserts while he waited for his friends. Such a reception in such a prestigious place was quite unusual for Xinguang. Indeed, clothes make the man. When he entered this private room, the desserts and tea were already on the table, and he could help himself. If he wanted anything else, he could just ring the bell. The waitress wasn't going to disturb our hero's rest, and he could enjoy his meal. The view from the private room was really breathtaking. The evening city was especially good. This was the first time Xinguang had seen the city from the height of the 40th floor. In today's day, our hero had firmly convinced in practice that as long as one had money, he could enjoy the best service. And what's more, as long as you have money, you can stand at heights inaccessible to others. Now all those long-held fantasies and dreams that Xinguang had could finally come true. But before all that, he hurriedly transferred some money home, a little so as not to shock his father. It was only 100,000. If his father had any questions about the origin of the money, our hero could simply justify that it was savings from a part-time job. It would be believable, and his father and mother wouldn't be too shocked. While our hero was relaxing at the restaurant, Hyeon was sweating and working hard. She was performing custom dances, and the donations were pouring in, giving her no time for rest. There's a reason her broadcasts got so many views, you know what I mean. Xinguang forwarded the location and the name of the restaurant. But of course she didn't read the messages because she was live streaming. Fans sent her one donation rocket after another. And Hyeon was grateful to them all. But it was time to wrap it up. That was all for today, and viewers will be able to see the follow-up tomorrow. Finally, this madness was over, and a tired and sweaty Hyeon could sit down and rest. Unfortunately, such a desirable moment of rest for her did not last long. Almost immediately, her friends came over. They wanted to go out to dinner together. Hyeon had to disappoint them, as she had her own plans for the evening. One of her friends immediately suspected that something was going on, and Han was keeping a very important detail from her. Who was she going to have dinner with? Did she have a serious rich fan? Han had to disappoint her. She should stop talking nonsense. She already knows this guy herself. It's just Xing Wang. The friends were surprised that Han still thinks about this loser and agreed to meet him after he left work. She definitely has feelings for him, no matter how hard she tries to hide it. Han again advised them to stop talking nonsense. She's just grateful to him that Xing Wang helped her a lot when he was an operator at the company. Now that he's left the company, it's just a farewell dinner. Besides, he'll treat. Hearing the key word that he would treat, the girls also wanted to go with her. It wasn't a date, so Han didn't mind. Besides, they would probably eat something simple, and it wouldn't be too expensive for Xing Wang. But if the friends wanted something expensive, they would pay for it separately. The blonde-haired friend was fine with it. She had a long day and was willing to treat herself a little. Zinua wanted to go too and didn't want to take advantage of others at all. At least that's what she said. In fact, Zinua just knew that Xing Wang was so stingy that he didn't even add an egg to his pancake. She was very curious about what kind of fancy restaurant he could take them to for dinner. Of course, Hyeon couldn't read the minds of her greedy friends. So she suggested they meet in the parking lot after she took off her makeup. Soon they walked down to the parking lot together, where Haon's brand new car was parked. That evening, they were lucky and no one blocked it. Jiang Qingting had to admit that it had become difficult for her to get advertising contracts recently, and she didn't know when she would be able to buy a similar car. Haon suggested that she try to become a dance streamer, but Jiang Qingting knew herself too well. It was too tiring for her. After all, she didn't have the stamina like Haon to dance from morning to night. Instead, her strategy was to wait for good big brother to propose to her and pull her out of this damned industry. Sinu immediately brought her down to earth. Jiang Qingting wanted too much. In their industry, it's good enough not to get taken advantage of by big brothers. Yet she dreams of someone from them to save her. Jiang Qingting just wanted to dream a little. Sinu had nothing against it. She could dream all she wanted, but could she be so naive and believe that Haon had bought herself a fancy car just by dancing on the streaming service? Zinyu was sure that she must have slept with many big brothers. Otherwise, she definitely wouldn't have become a top 1 company star. Definitely not just because of her cute look. Finally, Zinyu came to her senses after all her dirty guesses and asked where they were going to have dinner. As soon as Hyeon pulled out her phone to check, she just froze with a strangely startled expression on her face. It was smugly remarked by Zinyu, certain that the place was so shabby that even her love-struck friend was shocked. But she was wrong. The place they were invited to was called Lingwai, and there was a restaurant with the same name. It was located in the Jingwu building. This restaurant was known for being a super famous and popular restaurant with 3 Michelin stars. Even the most modest dinner in such a place cost over 3,000 per person. But even that wasn't the main problem. It was the fact that it was very difficult to get a reservation because of the popularity of the place. Jiang Qingting found it hard to imagine that a cheapskate like Hang could invite them there. Could it be that he had secretly got a promotion, and that was why he quit his previous job? Zinyu assumed it was just some cheap restaurant in the same building. Some people like to post locations near famous places to show off and confuse others. Haon didn't believe her jealous friend and advised her not to be so quick to judge. As far as she knows, Hang is not that kind of vain person. But Zinyu was still sure that Hang would soon embarrass himself and Haon would change her wrong opinion of him. Finally, they got into the car and agreed to go and see. Through the night city with no traffic, they drove quite fast. Jiang Qingting had to admit that Hyeon's new car was stable and had strong shock resistance, what her old car could not boast of at all. Zinua was more restrained in her reaction. She even advised her friend to take advantage of her opportunities. She is a beauty blogger, and there are many rich people on her live streams from whom she could get some resources. All she needs to do is lower her collar a little and use soft voice. Then the gifts will fall on her. No matter its dance or beauty, all she has to do is lower her standards a little and the rich fans will send rockets of gifts. Then Jiang Qingting won't have to worry about getting advertising contracts. However, Jiang Qingting herself did not like such offers at all. Besides, most of her viewers were girls. Sinua was not going to insist if it suits her and she can earn money without resorting to such methods. Then let it stay that way. It's not like anyone wants to resort to such a thing for nothing. If a couple is together only because of momentary attraction and the girl is not financially independent, Then she will be in a vulnerable position in the family and will have no right to speak. And then the way the rich guy lives with her will be the same way he might live with someone else. So as long as a man has money, he will always have young girls around him that he can change at will. This was not a situation Howen wanted to be in. To Zinyo, her words did not sound very honest. She wished Howen would stop pretending to be all high and mighty. After all, she actually dances more provocatively than anyone else on her live streams. In reality, Howen just wanted to be self-reliant and earn as much as she could while she still could. Finally, they arrived at the parking lot beneath the restaurant, and Howen stepped forward confidently. But Zhang Qingting hurriedly stopped her, eager to double-check the location of the place Hang had invited them to once again. Even with Howen's high monthly income, she probably wouldn't want to spend a lot of money here. What if Hang just gave her the wrong address? Zinyo agreed with her completely. It was embarrassing for her to walk into a high-end restaurant and then shamefully leave because they didn't have a reservation there. What if one of their viewers recognized them and posted a video of it online, and then they would lose followers? So Howen decided to call Hang to find out for sure. But all she got was a dial tone, and Hang didn't answer. Zinyo smugly mentally laughed at her, certain that it was solely Howen's fault that she was hanging out with show-offs and getting dragged into this. Howen, on the other hand, thought Hang was just busy and therefore not responding. Zinyo put on her good friend mask again and suggested that something might have happened. In any case, Hang wouldn't mess with her on purpose, right? So it's still worth going upstairs and checking since they're here. Zinyo was just curious to see this top 1 restaurant and how the story with Hang would end up. Howen invited her friends to take the elevator, thinking that Ling Wei is a very expensive restaurant. Even though she can afford it, Hang with his small salary probably can't. There's a reason he's usually so stingy. Ling Wei would be too much of a waste for him. What if he was just kidding? In that case, she would have to pay for the entire dinner herself. Approaching the entrance, Howen hesitantly looked around from around the corner. When she didn't see him in the main hall, she started to panic. Why wasn't Hang answering the phone? She tried again and again, but nothing changed. Suddenly, a waitress approached them from behind and asked if they had a reservation. Howen wasn't sure what to answer, but Zinyo answered instead, confidently saying yes. Now Howen had no choice but to say that the reservation should be under the name Hang Xing Wang. Zinyo continued to gloat, knowing that the salary of an operator in his company was only $5,000. One dinner at this restaurant could cost him 3 months' salary, and she just couldn't wait to see how Howen would bear the blow of the harsh reality. But suddenly, against all her expectations, the waitress invited them to follow her, because Mr. Hang had been waiting for them for a long time. Zinyo was simply speechless. Is this really real? As the waitress led them to the private room where Hang was waiting for them, Zinyo couldn't stop envying how lucky Howen was. The company gives her resources, and she firmly occupied the position of top 1, leaving everyone far behind. Zinyo herself had to settle for a second position, but as if that wasn't enough, there were all kinds of suckers trying to gain Howen's attention. Even a stingy loser like Xing Wang was ready to spend so much for her. Zinyo was sure that in the end he would end up with no money and no girl, but she wished she could be in Howen's shoes. But then Zinyo would definitely not give even a chance to someone who pretended to be rich. The waitress led them to the elevator and sent them to the highest floor. Now Zhang Qingting was really starting to worry that someone else with the same name as Hang might be waiting for them there. It was even hard for her to imagine how embarrassing it would be if they misunderstood everything. As far as she knows, this elevator here is strictly for the VIP clients, to make it convenient for them to get to the top floor with private rooms. It's just that the price of booking such a room goes up to $10,000 per person for the evening. Now Zinyo was sure that someone else with the same name was waiting for them there. In her opinion, this was too much for Xing Wang. He would have to spend his entire 3 months' salary, and that's if he didn't eat or drink anything. Even if it was actually him, she was curious to see how he would handle himself when he saw that the 3 of them had come. One thing she had to admit, though, this Xing Wang is really smart since he picked the moment when someone with the same name reserved a seat in the restaurant and invited them here just to show off. But this whole show would soon be over, and she would bring him out. Finally, they arrived at the 40th floor, where a nice waitress who looked much better than the 3 of them invited them to come through and be seated. The only thing that bothered Howen was that Xing Wang was not to be seen here. But Qingting wasn't upset about it and immediately started taking pictures in such a luxurious restaurant. It was not allowed to take pictures in the lobby, but it was still possible to take pictures in the private rooms. Qingting decided that whether they dined here tonight or not, if she managed to take a good pictures, it would be considered a good night as if she had dined here. Zinuo did not share her enthusiasm and was in no hurry to join her. Qingqing was going to publish these photos later. After all, no one would know under what circumstances she had gotten here anyway. Zinuo continued to be not satisfied. She still thought that Xinguang was just a rascal who invited guests and didn't come himself, just like she expected. Qingting was having a more pleasant time, recognizing that she had never dined at such an expensive restaurant in her life, and realizing that she might not get another chance, used it to the fullest to take more photos. Zinuo finally ran out of patience and demanded Howen to tell her what Xinguang had said to her. She didn't want her friend to make a fool of herself if it turned out to be a misunderstanding. Howen was also beginning to doubt that an ordinary office worker could afford to dine at such a place. She was about to leave when a waitress came to one door and started to wake Mr. Heng, who was sleeping there. Zinuo gloated that she knew it, and now Howen would be humiliated. But Xinguang dashed all her hopes. He had just waited so long for them that he fell asleep. And when he woke up, he saw 4 or 5 missed calls, and now he hoped that they hadn't at least waited too long for him. He immediately told the waitress to start serving. To the girls, his change in appearance from a poor guy in a hoodie to a rich guy in designer clothes was startling, especially for Howen, who didn't even know what to say. Qingqing immediately estimated that his branded clothes cost quite a lot. The jacket alone cost over $5,500. Zinuo was just flaming with envy and couldn't understand how this guy could be so rich in reality. Had he inherited money from a rich relative? It made her angry that such a loser was so lucky, and it made her even angrier that he was so skillful at hiding it all.
That's all for today, guys. Please leave a comment for the next part. Thank you and see you on the next upload.